I didn't see you there. I was too busy reading books and getting smarter, but welcome back to the channel. All jokes aside, during this total life makeover I've been on, reading books has become a very important part of all of that. They're a personal goal of mine, but also a key part of how I'm seeing the world and attempting just to learn as much as humanly possible. What screams human sustainability more than learning from decades and centuries of people passing along their experiences to all of us so that we can live better lives? But before I dove headfirst into this, I'd probably read a combined 3 books in like the last 5+ years. So I know all of the challenges that come with reading or trying to read, and I know just about all of the excuses that come with it as well. That's why on today's episode, I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to read more books in the year of 2021 and beyond. Plus, I'm going to give you a bonus tip that my wife says is cheating, but it actually really helped kickstart my book reading, and I think it'll help you out as well. Before we get to any of that, though, I am contractually obligated as a YouTuber to ask you to like, subscribe, put on the notification bells, all that jazz. It would be doing me a huge, huge favor. So I think the easiest way to tackle how to read more books in 2021 is to look at the when, the where, and the how when it comes to reading. It'll be really hard for you to find any sort of content around, hey, what do geniuses and entrepreneurs and successful CEOs do every single day that makes them so successful without finding reading books on that list. Reading books has been advice from the top performers since like before even the Roman days. So it's not advice that's going anywhere anytime soon. It's here to stay. But in a world full of distractions and seemingly more visually intriguing content, I'm thinking the Netflixes and Hulus and social medias of the world, finding ways and time to read now is harder than it's ever been in the history of reading. From the time I left college in 2013 to the time I moved to Arizona in 2019, my day basically went like this. Wake up early, go to work early, sometimes work out, eat really crappy food because it's fast and convenient, get home super late, pray that my wife had made me dinner, then watch a couple episodes of something on Netflix, pass out, and then do it all over again. Now that sounds dramatic, but there were a lot of times when that was the reality. We all have obligations, whether it's to work or to family. We all have these obligations, and so we all face very similar challenges when it comes to taking on something like reading. And unfortunately, what gets sacrificed is normally in our own best self-interest. That's like the last thing in terms of the line of the priority. You normally worry about everything else besides your own self-improvement. And as a guy who worked 14-hour days, including many weekends, I completely get it. I was guilty as charged with this as well. Reading a book was so far down my priority list that I said in the beginning, I read like 3 books total in the last 5+ years, and almost all of them were some weird book club thing at work that we were doing, so I was like obligated to read it anyway. So when I tackled reading more and actually stuck to it in 2020, it started with the when of when I was reading each day. The first part is figuring out when you can actually commit every single day to consistently find time to read. For some of us, that might be starting our day with a coffee and reading a book. Some of us might be reading at lunch. Some of us might be reading at dinner time. Some of us might be reading at bedtime, but it's just finding that time every single day that works for you. Like all habits, you are the one that has to choose when it's going to be, because it's only going to work if you choose when it's convenient for you. And even if that just means reading like a page or 2 every single day, it's building positive momentum. It's better than nothing. And I promise you, if you read a page or 2, you'll eventually read a lot more than just 1 page a day. But it does have to be an actual priority every single day. I started by just swapping out that nighttime Netflixy time with just reading a couple chapters of a book before bed. And now my routine is every single day I basically go out front and I read a book, normally a chapter in the morning, and then hopefully a chapter or 2 every single night. I try to read a book every single week, and if I'm consistent of the times of day when I'm reading, I'm normally able to make that happen. So that was tip number 1. Next, tip number 2 is the where. If you live a life full of distractions, like living with a roommate or living with kids, where you read is really, really important. You need to find a space where absolutely no one can bother you, and that includes your phone. There's no reason to have a phone nearby when you're reading, because you're just asking for a distraction that you can easily eliminate just in the time you're setting aside to read on that day. Each morning, I sit outside on my front porch and I enjoy the sun coming up, and that is when I choose to read and to drink coffee or a protein shake or whatever I'm doing that day. I get a little bit of vitamin D from the sun, and because I get up super early, I face almost zero distractions of people walking around the neighborhood or anything like that. It's just my alone time out front of my house, like an old man on the porch. At night, I read in bed, and that only works because my wife also reads in bed. So if she was like someone who watched television or was making a lot of noise on her phone, that would not work for me. I'd have to find some other place in the house to read at night. But luckily, we're both readers, and we both read at nighttime together. And because you need to be distraction-free, I would actually argue that the where is probably the most important out of the when, where, and how of reading. And transitioning into the how, that's last but not least. If you're like my wife and you read almost exclusively fiction, the how isn't as important as somebody who reads nonfiction, and I'll explain what I mean. She reads for entertainment, which I found to be amazing if you are someone who struggles to try to go to sleep at night because you're looking at a phone or a TV's on or something like that. If you just take away all the screens and just read a fiction book, which is just pure entertainment, you actually find that it's a lot easier to go to bed than watching TV or looking at your phone before you go to bed. So if you're having trouble sleeping, I recommend that you start reading some fiction books before bed, for sure. And I've done it before in the past, so I actually know it works, and that's why I recommend it. But if you are like me and you read to learn or to gain more knowledge or to get better at a skill, then the how you read is very, very, very critical. One of the best things I've learned about reading comes from Ryan Holiday, who runs the Daily Stoic website and channel. And if you have never heard of Ryan Holiday, I suggest that you check him and his content out. It's fantastic. What he taught me was how to be a better reader, and I immediately implemented that, and I even use it to this day. Whenever I'm reading a book and I come across something that I really want to remember, or just a quote that I really liked, or something along those lines, I immediately take out note cards and I write them down, and I use a note card system that's very similar to his. This makes sure that I'm actively engaged in what I'm reading and trying to retain the knowledge, and so I'm always constantly taking notes and then taking those notes and putting them onto flashcards just so I can just do my very best to remember what I'm taking on. I then build those note cards out into several different categories, and I keep them in a little note card box that I'm going to show you guys here in a second. I've been doing this all year, and so you can see that I have a ton of note cards here because I've taken it super serious because I do want to remember what I'm reading. So now I can easily go back, and if I remember struggling with something, and I can start looking through these categories of my note cards and just get these little quick hitters that'll help me get me through the day. Maybe I need a refresher on how to be more productive, and I look back at all the different productivity quotes and tactics that I've learned at least this year and hopefully moving forward as well. Or maybe it's like needing help with perseverance, and even if life has me down, like I have note cards with little pick-me-ups in there, or with little stories that help jog my memory of, oh hey, this person went through something challenging as well. It's very similar to what I'm going through, and that's why you just got to start this habit now, and you'll be able to expand this over the course of your life. And just think about all of the things that you'll be able to collect along the way when it comes to reading, and how much more knowledge you'll retain this way. This is actually my biggest piece of advice from the entire podcast episode. So if you take anything away from this, it's this: I read to learn and to grow, and I find that the note card system just helps me maximize that. Now, as promised, here is my bonus tip. It costs money, but since I started using Blinkist, which is an app and a website online, I've been able to read more than ever before in my life. Blinkist is a website of in-depth summaries on thousands of different nonfiction books. My wife says that it's cheating, but sometimes I just don't have time to go to the bookstore or have a book mailed to me or something like that. And I just want to get a really quick hit synopsis of some sort of category or something I'm looking to get a little more information on. I'll just go on Blinkist and I'll see if that's on there, and I'll check it out. Some books I prefer to use Blinkist for, and some I prefer to read long form, but the important part is that you're just reading something. And yes, I am on YouTube, and I do have a YouTube channel, which means that if you go below, there is a link in the description that will be able to give you 20% off an annual subscription for Blinkist. I think it comes out to be like $5 a month, but it just gives you access to thousands of summaries of books, and it's something that I found very helpful. There you have it. Reading in 2021 is harder than ever before, but now you know when to read, where to read, and how to read, with a little bit of a bonus tip in there at the end. And most people, one of their biggest New Year's resolutions is to lose weight, eat healthier, and also read more. And so this is like one of those, resolution in June, if you will. Please hit the like button if you enjoy reading or if you enjoyed any of these tips to help make you a better reader. And please share this with anybody that you know that's struggling to read more, who wants to read more, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It doesn't really matter. These tips help for both. Not a scientist or doctor, just a normal guy on a quest. To better himself.